Welcome, wanderers of the shadowed vale, to throne of nightmares, where the bones of the forgotten rattle in the wind, and the whispers of the damned curl like smoke around your throat. I am your host, the keeper of cursed threads, spinning tales from the frayed edges of history, tales that slither into your dreams and coil there uninvited. Tonight, we descend into the fog-shrouded streets of Salem, Massachusetts, in the year 1692, a year when the air hung heavy with the scent of damp earth and burning herbs, when the Puritan soul trembled on the knife's edge between salvation and damnation. Picture it, the salt-stung wind whipping off the Atlantic, carrying the cries of gulls that sound too much like the wails of the afflicted. The clapboard houses huddle like frightened children against the encroaching woods, where every rustle hides a spectre, every snap of a twig the footfall of the unholy. But this is no ordinary retelling of the Salem witch trials, no dry ledger of accusations and hangings. Oh no, dear listeners. Tonight, we unearth a deeper rot, a secret buried in the soft, yielding soil of the village graveyard. We speak of births not of light and promise, but of shadow and silence. We speak of the graveyard midwife, the woman who delivered the dead. Her name, whispered only in the dead of night, was Eliza Harrow, not a healer of the living, but a tender to the stillborn, the malformed, the ones who slipped from the womb like secrets too terrible to keep. They called her the bone weaver, the cradle shaker, for she alone would kneel in the cold mud of the burying ground, her hands slick with the blood of the unborn, coaxing forth what God had refused to claim. Imagine the hook in the heart of the hysteria, as spectral fingers pinched the flesh of young girls, and the court of Oyer and Termina feasted on confessions like wolves on carrion. A rash of birth swept through Salem, not the joyful cries of new life, but hushes, eternal, accusing silences, babes born with eyes like polished obsidian, limbs twisted as if sculpted by a mad potter, skin pale as the underbelly of a toad. And always, attending these omens, was Eliza Harrow. Did she curse the wombs of the pious, or was she the village's grim guardian, pulling back the curtain on a truth too profane for daylight? As the trials raged, with 19 souls swinging from the gallows and one crushed beneath stones, the whispers turned to screams. The midwife serves the devil's forge. She births his legions from the grave. Feel the chill now seeping through the cracks in your walls, as if the frost of that New England winter still lingers. The air tastes of iron and ash, the kind that clings to your tongue after biting your lip in fear. We will walk the crooked lanes of Salem together, past the parsonage where Reverend Parris paced with his demon-plagued daughter, past the meeting house where accusations flew like arrows in the dark. We will stand at the threshold of birthing chambers, where the line between life and death blurs like ink in water, and peer into the abyss of a woman's hidden power. For in 1692, fear was a contagion, spread not by broomstick, but by the very act of creation. The swell of a belly, the push of forbidden fruit into the world. Why does this tale claw at us still, 3 centuries later? Because it reminds us that the monsters we hunt are often the mirrors we shatter, that the boundary between mother and monster is thinner than a vein's blue thread. And as we begin, listen closely. Do you hear it? The faint, wet gasp of something stirring in the earth below. That's the first breath of our story, rising unbidden. Settle into your chair, dim the lights, and let the fog roll in. Eliza Harrow awaits, and once you know her secrets, you may never sleep through a midnight cry again. But before we cross that threshold, let me paint the canvas broader. Salem was no quaint village of thatched roofs and merry harvest. It was a fortress of faith besieged by doubt. The Puritans had fled England's perfidy only to plant their own seeds of paranoia in rocky soil. The frontier pressed close, with native shadows in the trees and the roar of the sea mocking their isolation. Disease gnawed at the edges, smallpox, fever, the invisible hand of God or devil, who could say? And then, in January of that fateful year, the girls began to twist and convulse, their bodies puppets to an unseen master. Betty Parris, just 9, and her cousin Abigail Williams, 11, innocents, or so they seemed, screamed of witches in the rafters. Tituba, the enslaved woman from Barbados, baked a witch cake to reveal the tormentors, and the floodgates burst. Yet amid the spectral evidence and pricking pins, there lurked a quieter horror, the cradle. Births in colonial New England were communal rites, women gathering in steamy rooms scented with sage and sweat, midwives chanting prayers against the evil eye. But what of the births that failed, the ones where the cord wrapped like a noose, or the child emerged blue, lipped and staring? These were the devil's work, omens that a witch had soured the milk of motherhood. And Eliza Harrow, she was the one they called when hope guttered out. A widow of 38, her own babe lost to the flux years prior, she lived on the graveyard's lip, her cottage a squat shadow amid tilted stones. Folks said her windows glowed with corpse, light on moonless nights, that she murmured to the winds in tongues older than the Mayflower. As the accusations spiraled, Sarah Good, the beggar, Tituba, the conjurer, Rebecca Nurse, the godly matron, strange pregnancies quickened. Wives of the accusers swelled overnight, their husbands pale with dread. Was it divine retribution? Or something fauler, birthed in the hysteria's womb? Eliza attended them all, her satchel heavy with yarrow and mandrake, her voice a low croon that soothed or damned. And with each stillborn she laid to rest, not in the family plot, but in the unmarked earth where suicides and unbaptized souls molded. The village eyes turned sharper, hungrier. Grip your armrests now, for we are stepping into the mire. The path is slick with unspoken sins, the air thick with the metallic tang of fear, sweat. What if I told you that one such birth marked the trial's turning point? A child delivered under Eclipse's shadow that did not die but lingered, its tiny fists clutching at the air as if to drag the mother down with it. Eliza's hands, they say, trembled that night, not from cold, but from recognition. For in the dead babe's gaze, she saw her own reflection, a woman who bridged worlds, cursed to deliver what should remain buried. This is the hook that sinks deep, listeners. The tale of Eliza Harrow is not just of witches and hangings, it is of the womb as battlefield, where the Puritan god warred with the primal dark. It is the story of how fear devours its own, turning nurturers into night fiends. And as we unravel her thread, remember, every birth is a gamble with the void. Some win life, others deliver the dead. And tonight, in the quiet of your room, you might wonder, who tends the graves of the unborn in your own bloodline? Who whispers their names when the clock strikes the witching hour? Let us now slip through the keyhole of time, into the creaking heart of Salem village, where the year 1692 unfolds like a shroud unfurling in the gale. The ground is frozen hard, crunching under boot, leather like brittle bones, and the sky is a bruise, swollen purple from storms that never quite break. Smoke curls from chimneys in lazy spirals, carrying the scent of peat and pork fat, mingling with the ever-present brine of the harbor 2 miles distant. But beneath it all lurks another aroma, subtle, insidious, the earthy musk of turned soil from the graveyard, where the spades never rest. Eliza Harrow's cottage squats at the cemetery's edge, its thatch roof sagging like a widow's veil, walls timbered dark with age and neglect. Inside, the air is close, heavy with the ghosts of herbs, dried rue hanging in brittle fans from the rafters, bundles of wormwood tied, with twine stained the color of old blood. A single tallow candle gutters on the trestle table, casting shadows that dance like imps across the packed earth floor. Eliza moves through this dim kingdom with the grace of one long accustomed to the half-light. Her skirts whispering against the floorboards, her hands collused and veined like river maps, deft as a seamstress's. At 38, she is no longer the slip of a girl who crossed from England 20 years past, but a woman carved by loss, high cheekbones sharp as flint, eyes the grey of storm-tossed waves, hair the colour of ravens' wings pinned back in a severe knot. She was not always the graveyard midwife. Born Eliza Thorne in a Devonshire hamlet, she learned her craft at her mother's knee. Simple arts of poultices and possets, of easing breech births with oiled hands and murmured psalms. But the sea voyage changed her. Storms battered the ship, claiming half the souls aboard. Eliza, heavy with child, clung to the rails as waves clawed like demons. Her babe came too early, in the belly of that wooden beast, slipping into the world amid thunder and the screams of the damned. The child lived 3 days, eyes milky as the foam below before the sea claimed it to, wrapped in sailcloth and committed to the deep. Eliza's husband, a door cooper named Josiah, drowned months later in Boston Harbor, leaving her adrift in the New World, her womb a hollow echo. Word spread of her touch with the troubled births, the ones where the labor lingered like a fever dream, the child reluctant to face the light. In Salem, where the soil yielded grudgingly and the winters bit like wolves, such skills were gold, but gold tarnished. The stillborns came first, a farmer's wife birthing a form too small, too quiet, its skin translucent as onion skin, veins threading blue beneath. Eliza washed it in rosewater, wrapped it in linen, and carried it herself to the graveyard at dusk, when the bats wheeled like omens and the foxes yipped their mocking laughter. Bury them deep, the elders muttered, lest they rise unshriven. But Eliza knew better, the unmarked graves, the liminal ground where the church denied its rights. These were thresholds, not prisons. She planted thrift and feverfew over them, whispering names the parents dared not speak, little mercy gone before the dawn, tiny grace borrowed from the stars. By 1690, the whispers had calcified into legend. Harrow's hands, they called her, for she harrowed the soul as a plough turns the field, uprooting the dead to make way for what? The cottage became a pilgrimage for the desperate. The barren prayed for quickening, the grieving for solace. One stormy All Hallows Eve, a girl of 16, Anne Putnam's kin distant by marriage, labored through the night. The winds howled as if the devil himself beat at the door, and when the child crowned, it was wrong, limbs folded like a frog's, mouth a lipless slash. Eliza's fingers, steady as the tide, coaxed it free, but it hung limp, a puppet with cut strings. As she severed the cord, a gust snuffed the candles, and in that instant of black, the babe's eyes snapped open, pitch, bottomless, staring not at Eliza but through her, into the marrow of her bones. She buried it under a yew tree, the wood's red berries like drops of accusation. That night, dreams came, the child crawling from the earth, tiny nails scraping wood, voice a rasp. "Mother, why did you let me go?" Eliza woke sweating, the taste of salt on her lips. Tears or sea? From then, the stillbirths multiplied, each a variation on damnation. One with teeth like pearls, gnashing silently, another with fingers webbed as a drowned man's, clutching at shadows. The village women crossed themselves as she passed, their eyes sliding away, but still they called her when the pains twisted unnatural. Now, 1692 dawns like a fever. The parsonage on Salem Street simmers with unrest. Reverend Samuel Parris, his face a mask of pious fury, paces before his hearth, Bible thumping like a heart in arrest. His daughter Betty, fragile as a reed, twists on her pallet, body arching in fits, uttering words in no Christian tongue. Abigail Williams joins her, the girl's screams piercing the frostbitten air. "Witch!" they shriek, fingers jabbing at invisible foes. Tituba stirs the pot in the kitchen, her Barbados rhythms clashing with Puritan severity, while the village elders gather, their breaths fogging the air like specters. Eliza hears the rumors as she trudges the lanes, her satchel slung heavy. A merchant's wife, Goodman Proctor's sister by law, sends a boy panting to her door. The babe comes wrong, Mistress Harrow. God help us, it kicks like the fiend. The birthing chamber is a cauldron of heat and panic. Women clustered like crows, linen soaked, the air thick with the copper reek of blood and the sharp bite of vinegar. The mother, pale as milk, gasps through contractions that rack her like lightning. Eliza kneels between her thighs, the straw pricking her knees, and feels the child's head, too large, too insistent, crowned with something slick and unnatural, like coal but darker, veined. Hours bleed into dawn. The women chant psalms, their voices fraying at the edges. Finally, with a guttural cry that splits the night, the child slides free, not wailing, but gurgling a wet, bubbling sound like drowned laughter. Eliza cradles it, heart pounding. It is whole, yet not skin-mottled grey, eyes sealed shut with a membrane that pulses faintly. The mother reaches, then recoils. What is it? Eliza raps it swift, her mind racing. A son, she lies softly, strong lungs, praise God. But as she slips out into the grey light, babe bundled against her chest, she feels it stir, not breath, but a tremor as if something inside uncoils. The graveyard waits, its iron gate creaking like a coffin lid. Eliza digs shallow, the spade biting frozen clods, her breath pluming white. She lays the bundle in, murmurs a forgotten prayer from her Devon days. Earth to earth, shadow to shadow, and covers it quick. But as dirt patters down, a hand, small, cold, brushes her wrist from within the cloth. She gasps, flings soil frantic, packs it till the mound is smooth. Running back, skirts mud-lashed, she bars her door and lights every candle, their flames leaping wild. That week the trials ignite. Sarah Osborne, bedridden with rehim, accused by the girl's contortions. Tituba confesses under whip and threat, spinning tales of yellow birds and black dogs. The court assembles, Judge Hathorne's gaze sharp as a bayonet. And Eliza, she tends another, the wife of accuser Thomas Putnam, swollen, sudden, pain striking like accusations. The birth is swifter, the child emerging backward, feet first, trailing a cord-coiled serpent tight. Still, always still. Eliza's hands shake now, slick not just with birth blood, but something folar. Ink, black echo that stains her apron like sin. Word spreads in the meeting house, hissed behind cupped palms. Harrow's curse. Every womb she touches turns barren or bewitched. A boy stones her window that night, glass shattering like brittle faith. Eliza bolts the shutters, huddles by the fire, but sleep brings the dreams again. Graves cracking open, tiny forms crawling forth, their mouths opening in silent chorus. Deliver us, deliver us. The tension coils tighter, a noose around the village neck. More births falter. A deacon's daughter births twins fused at the hip, their faces mirrors of agony. A fisherman's bride delivers a form with gills, flopping helpless on the boards. Eliza attends them all, her reputation a double-edged blade. Savior to the suffering, suspect to the scared. And in the parsonage, Betty Paris whispers to her doll, the midwife. She brings the dead ones. They follow her home. As spring thaws the ground, so the hysteria blooms. Accusations fly. Martha Corey, pious but sharp-tongued, dragged to the bar. Rebecca Nurse, 70, one and saintly, denounced by the very flock she nursed. Eliza keeps to shadows, but the girls' fits grow bolder, their visions vivid. One Sabbath, Abigail points from the gallery, voice shrill, Thea. The woman in black, with hands like claws, she pinches me. All eyes turn to Eliza in the back pew, her face ashen. She flees to her cottage, heart hammering like a death watch beetle. The door slams, but the whispers seep through cracks. Witch, grave, robber, birther of fiends. That night labor calls again, not a summons, but a pounding at her door, frantic. It's young Mary Warren, servant to the proctors, doubled over, skirts dark with waters broken. Help me, mistress, it's coming. Oh God, it's wrong. Eliza pulls her in, bars the door against the moon's pale stare. The chamber spins with urgency, kettle boiling, cloths boiling. Mary screams, tearing the night like parchment. The child crowns, and Eliza sees it not flesh, but a shroud, the babe wrapped in placental veil, face obscured. She peels it back gentle and gasps, the eyes open wide, grey as her own, staring up with knowing, alive, breathing. But as Mary reaches weeping, the babe's lips part, and a voice, not cry, but word, slithers out, Mother. Eliza recoils, the room tilting. Mary faints, and in the hush, the child fixes her unblinking. Outside, thunder rolls, and the first fat drops of rain lash the roof like accusations. The dead have been delivered, and they hunger. The rain falls in sheets now, turning the lanes to rivers of mud that suck at ankles like greedy mouths. Salem village drowns in it, roofs leaking, cellars flooding, the graveyard a bog where bones bob like buoys in the deluge. Eliza Harrow's cottage is an island of flickering warmth, but the shadows lengthen, pooling in corners like spilled ink. Mary Warren lies pale on the birthing bed, sweat beading her brow like dew on a corpse, her breath's shallow rasps. The babe, her babe, lies swaddled in Eliza's arms, its tiny chest rising and falling with mechanical precision, eyes locked on the midwife's face, as if reading a forbidden script. What did it say? Mary murmurs, stirring, her voice a threadbare whisper. Eliza startles, the child's weight suddenly leaden. Naught but a gurgle child. The storm plays tricks on wary ears, but the lie tastes bitter like gall on her tongue. For she heard it clear as a bell toll mother, not to Mary, the vessel, but to her, the deliverer, the weaver of fates. She lays the babe in the crude cradle, a willow basket lined with wool, and turns to tend the mother, strong tea of raspberry leaf, a compress of cool cloths. Mary sips, eyes fluttering, then widens in horror. Its eyes, they follow me, like the devil's own. Hush falls, broken only by the rain's tattoo and the hearth's crackle. Eliza paces, her mind a whirlwind of fragments, the Devon storms, the sea burial, the dreams that bleed into waking. Has she always known that the stillborns weren't lost but waiting, gathered in some liminal nursery beyond the veil, clawing back through wums she touched? The child stirs, a mule escaping, and Eliza leans close. Its skin is cool, unnaturally so, like marble kissed by frost, and beneath, a faint luminescence pulses, as if lit from within by foxfire. Dawn creeps grudging, grey as grief, and Mary is carried home by kin. The babe clutched to her breast like a talisman or a curse. Word flies swifter than the wind. Miracle! Warrens dead birth lives. But miracles in Salem are suspect. They smack of poppery or pact. The elders convene at the ordinary, tankards foaming, voices rising over the din of dripping eaves. Harrow's doing, growls Goodman Putnam, his face ruddy with ale and zeal. She muttered incantations, saw it myself from the window. Lies, of course, but lies take root in fear soil. The trials accelerate, a mill-wheel grinding souls to dust. Bridget Bishop, the tavern keeper with her scarlet bodice and bold laugh, is the first to swing, June 10th, her neck snapping like dry kindling on Gallows Hill. The crowd cheers, but Eliza, watching from the tree line, feels the rope's phantom bite. Bridget was no witch, just a woman who birthed bastards and brewed strong beer, sins enough in Puritan eyes. But as the body twitches, Eliza swears she sees a shadow detach, slinking toward the graveyard, where it merges with the yews. That night, the hauntings begin in earnest. Eliza dreams not of crawling dead, but of walking. A procession of small forms, pale and procession, filing from graves to her door, their feet leaving no print, but a trail of milk-white dew. She wakes choking, the air thick with the scent of lilies, funeral blooms, and finds her threshold strewed with them, petals bruised black, a scratching at the window, not branch, but nail on glass. She peers out, heart thudding, and there, framed in the pane, a face. Tiny, distorted, pressed close the webbed, hand babe from the fisherman's wife, eyes milky, mouth working soundless pleas. She bars the shutters, light sage till smoke stings her eyes, but the visitations persist. During the day, as she gathers herbs in the wood's edge, mandrake root twisting like hanged men, nightshade berries fat as accusations, rustles dog her steps. Glimpses a small hand from behind a birch, a giggle like bubbling bog water. The village shuns her openly now, children pelt her with offal, shouting, "Bone wife! Grave mother!" Even the dogs slink away, tails clamped. Another birth summons her, Rebecca, nurse's granddaughter. Heavy with twins, the old woman's own piety no shield. The nurse farm is a bastion of calm amid chaos, fields golden with rye, the homestead sturdy as faith, but inside the birthing room panic reigns. Rebecca, 71 and frail, clasps a Bible, her lips moving in silent imprecation, while the daughter-in-law writhers, belly taut as a drum. The pains, they twist like serpents. She gasps. Eliza arrives soaked, her hood dripping, and the room stills. Rebecca's eyes narrow. "You, the one they whisper of, but need trumps suspicion." Eliza kneels, probes gentle. The first twin comes easy, a girl, ruddy and roaring, slick with vernix like holy oil. Cheers ripple. But the second lingers. Labor stretches into afternoon, the sun slanting bloody through horn panes. The mother screams, a sound raw as flayed hide, and Eliza feels it. The resistance, not flesh but will, something pushing back from within. Sweat blinds her. She chants low, an old charm, by root and by rind, by blood and by bind. The child crowns, and the air turns cold, breath fogging as in winter. It emerges feet first, cord looped thrice like a hangman's knot, body elongated, limbs dangling like willow switches. Still. Eliza cuts, cleans, but as she lifts it, the eyelids flutter, open, and the mouth gapes, exhaling not air but a sigh, long and mournful, carrying the scent of turned earth. Rebecca crosses herself, voice trembling, demons get. Bury it deep, woman, or it'll call its kin. Eliza nods, wrapping it swift, but outside, as she trudges to the grave under twilight's bruise, the bundle twitches. She digs frantic, the spade ringing on stone, a marker. No, just the frozen heart of the world. As dirt falls, a voice, tiny, papery, whispers from the cloth. Grandmother, she sees. Eliza pats the mound, flees, but the words burrow like worms. The hauntings escalate. Now, they knock, insistent raps at midnight, seizing when she opens the door to emptiness. Milk sours in her pans, curdling to clots like congealed blood. And the dreams, oh, the dreams twist into visions. She sees the wombs of Salem as caverns, veined with shadow, and from them legions stir. Dead babes with wings of membrane, eyes like coals, swarming toward the light. We are yours, they chorus, voices susurrus like wind through reeds. Deliver us all. The court presses on, a juggernaut of judgment. Giles Corey, 80, refuses plea and is pressed to death, stones piling till his tongue lolls black, his last word a curse on the sheriff. 19 hang, 5 perish in chains. Eliza attends one last birth deliverance. Hobbs' niece, accused herself, laboring in irons for fear of flight. The cell reeks of despair, straw matted with filth, walls slick with damp. The girl, 19 and broken, births a single form perfect, but backward, emerging with a crown of dark hair that writhers like snakes. Alive, it wails, a sound that shatters glass in the watchman's hand. But as Eliza hands it over, the babe's gaze locks on hers, and it smiles, a rictus, teeth sharp as thorns. Accusation comes at dawn. Constable Herrick pounds her door. Eliza Harrow, you stand charged with witchcraft. Malefic births, spectral pinching, compact with the devil. She is bound, dragged to the meeting house, the crowd a sea of baying faces. The girls writhe on the floor, shrieking, "She brings the dead! They claw at us!" Prickings follow, needles in flesh, seeking the devil's mark. Eliza bears it silent, her mind adrift in the birthing fog. But when they search her satchel, out tumbles mandrake root, twisted phallic, screaming folklore's lie of demonic birth. In the dungeon, cold as a sepulchre, the hauntings converge. The walls weep, but it's not water, milky fluid, seeping from cracks, pooling at her feet. Shapes form in it, faces, small and accusing, mouthing silent pleas. Why bury us? Why not let us stay? Eliza presses against the bars, whispering, I did what I must. The world has no place for you. But a voice answers from the shadows. Tituba, chained nearby, her eyes gleaming. Child, you birth the old ones, the low no grave. They return through you. Escape, madness. But as the noose tightens, trial set for September, the eclipse looming, Eliza feels the pull, a tide in her blood. The dead don't die, they deliver themselves. And in her final night, as thunder cracks the sky, the cell door creaks open, unbidden. Small hands, pale and insistent, tug her free. She runs into the storm, the graveyard calling home, where the mounds stir, and the first cracks spider the earth. The village wakes to chaos, graves desecrated. Tiny forms gone, Eliza vanished like smoke. But in the birthing chambers new pains begin, not of life, but of something older, hungrier, slipping free. The graveyard midwife has delivered her last. Or has she? Listen, in the rain's hush a gurgle, close now, very close. Now, gentle shades, let us pause amid the narrative storm and peer through the veil of fiction to the bones beneath. The unyielding facts of 1692, etched in court records yellowed by time, folklore's fog, and the Puritan psyche's unquiet grave. For while Eliza Harrow is a spectre of our weaving, born of the era's shadows, her tale drapes over a scaffold of truth, the Salem witch trials, that fevered paroxysm of fear that consumed a community and scarred a nation. We tread here not to dispel the chill, but to deepen it, blending ledger and legend, history's dry ink with the wet breath of ghost stories, until the past feels alive, clawing at our heels. First, the soil from which hysteria sprouted, Salem village, now Danvers, but forever etched as Sin's synonym, was a frontier outpost carved from Massachusetts Bay Colony's rocky moor in 1626. By 1692, some 500 souls clung to its edges, farming grudging fields, fishing treacherous waters. Their lives a taut string between God's grace and wilderness wrath. Puritanism ruled Calvin's iron creed, where every misfortune whispered predestination's cruel math. Elect or damned, no middle ground. The church was state sinner contagion, women, vessels of Eve's fall, policed in body and soul. Births, deaths, all omens a blight on corn, God's rebuke, a child's fever, Satan's spite. Midwives like our Eliza were liminal figures, essential yet suspect. In colonial New England, birth was women's realm. No male physicians dared the blood and mystery till late century. Midwives, often widows or spinsters, trained by apprenticeship, wielded herbs forbidden by doctrine, pennyroyal for easing pains, or worse, for ending them. They attended 80% of births, their hands the first to touch new life, their chance the bulwark against witch-riding pains. But power bred peril, a difficult labor, blame the witch's teat, an invisible nipple suckled by familiars, a stillbirth, maleficium, the evil eye cast on the womb. Folklore brimmed with such English grimoires warned of handywives, consorting with fae, while native tales, overheard by settlers, spoke of wind spirits stealing babes mid-gestation. Enter 1692's spark, January's chill grip Salem, Reverend Parris's household fractures. Betty Parris, 9, and Abigail Williams, 11 exhibit fits, contortions, guttural tongues, visions of hooded figures. Folk healers diagnose bewitchment, invoking Cotton Mather's memorable Providences, 1689, a screed on Boston possessions. Tituba, Paris's enslaved Caribbean woman, bakes a witch cake, rye and urine fed to a dog per English rite, to reveal tormentors. It backfires. The girl's name Tituba, Sarah Goods a beggar, sin incarnate, and Sarah Osborne bedridden, quarrelsome. Arrests follow, March 1st. Examinations in the meeting house draw crowds like a hanging. The trials erupt, a legal Frankenstein stitched from English precedents and Puritan panic. The Court of Oyer and Termina, convened May 1692 under Lenti Gov. William Stockton admits spectral evidence, visions trumping alibis. Accusers, mostly teen girls, perform barking, levitating claims, pins producing no blood, over 200 indicted, 19 hanged, Dalsa 14 women, 5 men, Giles Corey pressed August 19th for plead refusal. His death a spectacle of stones till tongue burst. Bridget Bishop, our real midwife, which swings first. June 10th, her shape seen pinching girls, her poppets dolls, proof of effigy magic. Midwife by trade, she birthed in taverns, her boldness a beacon for envy. Births wove through the madness. Records entat, monstrous births. Though sparse, they fueled fire. Mary Easty, hanged September 22nd, accused of sorring cows and stilling whims, her kin birthed anomalies amid trials. Folklore amplified. Increased Mather's cases of conscience, 1692, cites demonic impregnations, babes with tails or cloven feet, midwives bore brunt. Margaret Jones, hanged 1648 for sucking teats on women's breasts, presaged Salem. In Virginia, 1626, midwife Elizabeth Wright tried for witchery after a changeling's birth, fairy-swapped imp, Scottish trials. 1590s, hanged Agnes Sampson, midwife healer for treasonous spells. These threads tapestry Eliza's curse, the graveyard tag from lying in customs, where stillborns buried at cemeteries' edges unbaptized, their graves midwife's plot. Anonymous, accursed, culturally, 1692 mirrored fractures. Frontier wars, King William 1689, brought native raids and over girls, bewitched by captive tales. Ergotism theories, rye fungus mimicking fits whisper, but hysteria's root is social land feuds, Putnam's vis porters, syphilis rumors, repressed teens rebelling via possession, women 80% accused, embodied threat, midwives controlled fertility, secrets of the body Puritan men feared. Rebecca Nurse, 71, hanged July 19th, represented matriarchal sway, her farm fertile envied. Legends linger, eerie authenticities glue. Essex County law speaks, Wariol Hill, ghosts hanged shades wandering, babes' cries from Gallows Hill, Modern digs unearth buttons, pins, pricking relics. Bakers a storm of witchcraft. A 2015 maps accusations web, tying births to spectral claims. The witch sent her shape to overlay the child. Folklore's hand of glory. Severed thief's fist, midwife's tool for night labors, echoes Eliza's bone hands. Yet authenticity unsettled trials ended October 1692, Phipps dissolving court amid doubt. Confessions retracted, mother recanted, spectral folly. But scars fester, pardons piecemeal. Nurse exonerated 1711, full clearance 1957. Today, Salem thrives on shadow tourism, witch museums, haunted tours, Proctor's Ledge memorials 2016, bones exhumed bearing trauma's mark. This context, listeners, is no dry exegesis but a mirror cracked 1692's fears, otherness, body's betrayal, echo in our red scares, satanic panics, cunes. Midwives, once wise women, birth modern obstetrics, patriarchy, and the dead deliverers. They haunt obstetric tales, stillbirth rituals, anonymous graves till 20th century. Feel the chill. History isn't buried. It's birthing, endless, the dead pressing against the veil. Eliza's fiction honors facts, horror in Salem. Every one was a potential grave, every midwife a potential noose. And tonight, as you cradle your own secrets, ask, what stillborn truths stir in your blood? With the narrative's blood still warm on our hands and history's bones laid bare, let us now descend further into the psyche's crypt, where symbols fester and themes uncoil like roots in rotten soil. Here, in Throne of Nightmare's shadowed nave, we dissect not with scalpel but with whisper the graveyard midwife's tale as prism for universal dreads, cultural wounds, and humanity's quivering core. Our tone remains ominous, intellectual. A lantern held low, illuminating not comfort, but the crawl of things best left unseen. For Eliza Harrow is no mere ghost, she is archetype. Her deliveries echoing the human soul's eternal labor. Symbolically, the womb reigns supreme, a chalice of creation fouled by destruction, boundary where life kisses death. In 1692's Puritan lens, pregnancy was covenant woman as Thecla, vessel for God's seed. But stillbirths inverted it, Eve's curse amplified, the fall's fruit bitter. Eliza, bridging this rift, embodies the Jungian shadow, the repressed feminine anima wild and untamed. Her graveyard epithet evokes the chthonic goddess, Hecate or Lilith, midwives to monsters. Delivering the dead, that's Thanatos' intrusion into Eros, Frode's death drive puppeteering birth's joy. The babe's black eyes, twisted limbs, not deformities but mirrors of the mother's unspoken sins, adultery, envy, the witch within every Eve, universal fear, the abject. Christeva's term bodies fluids, amniotic, blood-repelling yet riveting, the corpse, in womb horrifying because intimate. Psychologically, the trials scream mass hysteria, a collective psychosis, LeBone's crowd mind devolving to primal scream. Accusers, adolescent girls in rigid theocracy, channeled repressed rage, sexuality budding against chastity's chains, power seized via fits. Midwives like Eliza threatened patriarchy, their herbal lore as abortifacients, anesthetics, hinted autonomy, control over conception, the ultimate male terror. Accusations as projection, men fearing castration, wombs devouring phallic cloak as devil's pact, modern echo. Hysteria's ghost in eating disorders, false memories, bodies betraying society, blaming the bearer. And so, we emerge from the crypt of analysis, blinking into the narratives after dusk, where the fog of 1692 lingers like a lover's bruise on the world's throat. Eliza Harrow, our graveyard midwife, bone weaver of the damned, fades into legend's mist, her footsteps swallowed by the graveyard's maw. Did she flee to the wild woods, there to birth a coven of the lost? Or did the noose claim her after all, her body swaying from Gallows Hill, a pendulum marking hysteria's toll? The records falter here, as they do with all true ghosts. She is absent from the ledgers, a shadow uncaught, her trials unspoken. But in the unmarked graves of Salem, the earth remembers small mounds stirring under moonless skies, tiny sighs escaping like steam from a cauldron. Reflect, wanderers, on the tale's unraveling thread. We began in suspense's slow coil, the hook of stillborn stairs, the chill of wombs turned grave. We walked crooked lanes with Eliza, felt the slick horror of her deliveries, the haunting's cold fingers on our necks. History lent its scaffold Puritan fears, midwife suspicions, The trial's grim arithmetic, 19 nooses, one crushing, 200 souls scarred. And in the depths, themes nod, the feminine shadow, hysteria's howl, humanity's dance on death's edge, all converging here in this quiet close where the story doesn't end but echoes, faint, insistent like a heartbeat from below. What lingers most? The boundaries blur. In Salem, birth and burial entwined. The midwife, both savior and siren. Eliza delivered the dead not from malice, but necessity, pulling forth what society buried alive: women's power, the body's mutiny, the unspeakable grief of loss. Those babes, twisted and silent, were omens not of devil but doubt, the Puritan dream cracking under its own weight. And as accusations flew like locusts, devouring kin and neighbor, the village birthed its own monster of collective madness, a stillborn ideal of purity that strangled on its cord. Feel it now, the atmospheric weight settling like frost on your skin. The air tastes of salt and soil, the distant sea mocking with its endless churn. Picture the graveyard at dawn, yews drooping heavy, stones tilted like accusing fingers, the first light gilding mounds where Eliza's charges sleep or wait. For legends whisper she returns, on nights when labors falter and pains twist unnatural. A knock at the birthing door, not fist, but bone on wood. A figure in widow's weeds, hands extended, voice a croon, "Let me help you deliver what must come." And in her eyes, grey as gathering storm, you see your own secrets, the child you lost, the sin you silenced, the fear you birthed in haste. This is the hauntings heart. Dear listeners, no resolution, only resonance. Salem's trials ended in October's mercy, Phipps halting the court, Mather's sermons turning to remorse, but the wounds supper it still. Descendants gather yearly at memorials, voices choked with, "If only," but the dead don't forgive, they remind. Eliza Harrow embodies that reminder, a woman cursed by her gift, delivering truths too raw for daylight. In our world of sterile births and sanitized grief, she claws back. What do we bury alive in our haste to move on? What small horrors stir in the quiet hours, demanding we look, as the fog rolls thicker, enveloping the throne where nightmares convene? Let this episode seep into your veins. Carry Eliza's whisper to bed, the gurgle of the undelivered, the rasp of grave earth shifting. Sleep light, for in dreams you may feel the tug, a tiny hand from the dark pulling you under. Who knows? Your own bloodline might harbor a stillborn secret, waiting for its midwife. And if you hear a croon in the night, answer carefully, for some deliveries are eternal. Until next we gather in shadow's embrace, I am your keeper. Tread soft, for the ground hungers. And remember, the dead are never truly delivered. They simply return. Culturally, Salem scars America's trauma narrative. Puritan exceptionalism, city on a hill, crumbled in blood, 1692 exposed theocratic fragility, seeding Enlightenment doubt, Sewell's 1697 apology. Women's oppression peaks, 80% accused, their crimes domestic, gossip, healing, mirroring witch hunts worldwide, Europe's 40,000 and 60,000 executions, midwives prime targets, thematic link scapegoating the marginal. Eliza, widow, healer, parallels Tituba's racial otherness, goods poverty, society devours its caregivers when crisis bites. Human nature's thread, fear of the unknown amplified by isolation. Frontiers void bred paranoia as today, pandemics, COVID hysteria or migration spawn witch panics. The midwife's curse taps misopathy, hatred of change births chaos vs. Puritan order. Yet redemptive glint Eliza's hauntings suggest undead resilience. The dead return not vengeful, but insistent, demanding witness. Universal, ancestral memory, the unborn as collective unconscious, Jung's archetypes rising in crisis. We fear them because they are us, lost potentials, silenced voices, abortion debates, infant mortality stigmat. Ominous undercurrent, power's illusion, trials, purified, Salem, but bred guilt's rot, descendants' memorials whisper atonement's futility. Eliza's escape, not freedom, but merger, midwife to the eternal, delivering history's repressed, connects to cultural trauma, Holocaust echoes in trials bureaucracy, McCarthyism's lists, human frailty we birth monsters from fear then hang the mirror. Intellectually ponder Bataille's excess, birth death as sacred profane, taboos thrill, or Gerard mimetic violence, community bonding via victim, Elisa as pharmacos. The tale haunts because true every society has its graveyards, its midwives silenced. Tonight as symbols swirl, wombs as graves, dead as unborn futures, feel the thematic weight. We are all deliverers, pulling shadows into light. But what if the next birth is yours? What dead thing stirs demanding voice? The throne awaits your answer in silence.